So you're still here? Even after all that angst and sadness? Well, I just wanted to say that I had fun with you guys this week. And thanks for sticking with us. If you can make it through all this stuff, then you can make it through anything. And I didn't read any of your stupid comments, and I'm still not gonna respond to them. But if I did, I would say that you guys are some of the strongest, kind-hearted people I've ever met, so yeah. But since I didn't read it, you guys are still morons.
Wow, Kacchan.
Say one word and I'll kick your—
Okay. But seriously, thank you guys so much for following the series with us.
No!
I loved reading your comments and answering your questions, and
No!
but also we, hope to be back real soon. And who knows who else might join us.
Yeah, can't leave these two in space by themselves.
Mom!
Oh, don't mind me. I just came here to tell my children-in-law bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the fanfic.
Great, can you go now?
Oh, please. I'm the best thing that ever happened to this fic.
Somewhere in the farthest parts of your mind, you almost wish you hadn't met Bakugo Katsuki at all. Here he is, in all his glory, holding up a mirror to you, a mirror you had failed to hold up to yourself. In it is a scared young child that feels completely alone. She fears her loneliness, yet desires it most. All she wants is for someone to reach out to her and hold her close as her fears dissipate into an abyss. However, she's terrified that one day that those arms will loosen and that she'll fall freely until she hits the ground where her ugly emotions lay. The bottom of the abyss is cold and dark, and no light shines there. Instead of letting go of her fears and letting herself be held, all caution thrown to the wind, she learns to keep them at bay and reject help from those around her. In her mind, she cannot be tossed into a chasm if there are no arms to carry her. In her mind, she cannot reunite with her unsightly feelings if she never lets them go. And then, the partner to her soul waltzes in, telling her that he can help her run away from the abyss altogether if she's willing to let him, telling her that she doesn't have to tame her hideous emotions, but rather, he can help her make peace with them if she were to let him. This scares that young child even more. It scares you even more. Bakugo Katsuki, your soulmate, wants only for you to share your burden with him. And you won't let him because you're too scared to hurt yourself even more. Or worse, hurt him. Throughout the past several years, you would never learn to let someone in again without feeling like it's going to be the end of the world. You hadn't ever made peace. That night, when you arrive at your dorm room, chilled to the bone once again, you don't attempt to sleep. You settle down in front of your bedroom window. In its reflection, a frightened young child stares back at you for the remainder of the night. The first day after your final confrontation, your general studies classes drag by boringly. You know that you should be paying attention, but instead, you stare blankly at your notebook in front of you. Your pencil is poised to make notes across your material, but it never meets the page. It hovers above the paper for the full duration of your morning classes. When the bell rings for lunch, you shuffle slowly toward the cafeteria, and your eyes unconsciously settle onto the table you know Katsuki sits at. He sits with friends you had heard lots about, but had never met. You normally only come to buy your lunch, leaving right after to head to your workshop for the remainder of the afternoon. There's a usual irate air about him that's always present whenever he's not with you. Even now, while he's in his perpetual waspish state, Katsuki still looks beautiful to you. Your heart drums painfully against your ribs, and you turn on your feet, quickly making your way out of the lunch hall. You have just enough change to buy yourself a bottle of juice from the vending machine that sits just away from your workshop. After making the purchase, you quickly move to lock yourself away in the confines of the room that now holds a plethora of memories. Memories of soft, hesitant touches longing gazes and warm embraces, memories of you and your soulmate. As you twist open the cap of the bottle and sip at the sweet contents inside, you realize that you've gotten too used to Katsuki being in this room with you. Your shoulders slouch a bit forward at the realization that the room around you feels overly spacious and lonely now. A doleful air quickly takes hold of the room. Your work is blousy that afternoon, and you know that you'll have to do extra work to make up for it tomorrow. It's by the third day of the week that your peers and teachers begin to notice that there's something different about you, though they cannot pinpoint what. For them at least, your line in the sand still exists, and they do not dare to cross it. You are still the private girl they've always known you to be, only ever sparing them the polite pleasantries. You avoid their concerned and confused gazes as much as you can. As you sit in your workshop that evening, you feel like you want to scream. You settle for tightly clenching your fist around the material of the broken support item that lay before you. You're angry. Angry at the world for having the bitter season of winter even exist. You're angry at the stupid vending machine for eating your money and leaving you hungry. You're angry at your fingers for not ignoring your despair, seeing as all the work you do ends up below average. You're angry at your teachers for giving your sloppy work the poor grade that it deserves. You're angry at yourself and the way your cowardice ruined the best part of your day. Your cowardice had ruined the part of your day wherein Katsuki finishes his hero studies and comes to retrieve you from your workshop. He's always chastising you for overworking yourself. Your cowardice had ruined the part of the day wherein Katsuki takes your hand into his own and protects it from the outside air, keeping it warm with the heat of his own palm. There's a small part of you that wants to be mad at Katsuki for all this, to blame him for even entering your life in the first place. If he hadn't walked through that door that day, maybe none of this would have happened. This time, however, you squash that little ugly part of you into oblivion. You know you can't blame Katsuki for shining a bright, luminous light onto the pitch-black traumas of your past. In the farthest corners of the earth, where directions lose meaning as they cross paths and north meets south, the sun does not shine for half of the year. For almost as long as you can remember, you had hidden away here in this corner where the sun does not shine. Just as you were about to forget what the sun even felt like, it arrives in all of its ardent glory. Katsuki is the sun, and he brings to you the warmth you had almost forgotten. Now that you realize this, you miss it more than ever now that it's gone. You want to take it back. It's by the 5th day that you come to terms that you aren't upset with the weather, or any kind of machinery, or any teachers of yours, but that you're angry at your parents. You're mad at them for leaving you all alone in this world that you know nothing about. You're upset that they wrapped you in their arms, the whispered promise of return broken that very same day. You had unintentionally dug the chasm that you fear so greatly. You don't know how you'll forgive them for this. But it's then that you realize that this journey of reconciliation is not one that you need to make with or for Katsuki. It's one that you need to make with your parents, for your own well-being. That same day, with the help of your aunt, you skip school to visit the grave of your parents. It is there that you thank her for trying so hard to raise you during the most difficult time of your life, while she was also trying to deal with the death of her dearest sibling. Her tears run as freely as your own do when you embrace her for the first time since meeting her. She holds your hand in a bittersweet quiet as you try to traverse the surge of emotions you're feeling. When it's time to leave and you enter her car to make the trip back home, you begin to cry more than you ever have, even though you're still angry with them. You still want your parents to hold you in their arms and tell you that everything's okay. You want to bring them back, and you don't know how to deal with the fact that you can do no such thing other than to cry like a lost child. You whimper and whine as the tears cascade down your cheeks, desperately begging for some deity somewhere to give you your mom back, desperately begging for some deity somewhere to give you your dad back. Your aunt uses her fingers to dutifully wipe away at your tears, and you find that you're no longer afraid to lean into her touch. You sleep at her home that night, and you let her tuck you into your childhood bed. She bids you goodnight as you sleep deeply for the first time in the past several weeks. When you awaken, it's not to the honey-heavy dew of slumber that you wanted, but to grief and mourning. This time, you're not afraid to let yourself experience it wholly, and you're content to let your aunt dote on you during this. You're disconsolate, but it doesn't stop her from trying, and you're grateful nonetheless. You spend the day between fits of tears and more sleep. You're still sad when you finally make your return to UA, but you find that you don't fear this sadness or wish for it to disappear. You know that you'll have to carry this weight with you for the rest of your life, but shouldering it will eventually get easier. On the days that you feel weak, you know that you can rely on other people who care for you most. You know in your heart that Katsuki is still among those people, even if your last meeting with him had made you think otherwise. He's your soulmate, after all. You take the time to redo all the crudely finished projects you had throughout the week. It's a few minutes past midnight when you finish, and you're proud of your work. You hurry to bed, intent to have tomorrow come as fast as possible. Katsuki still finds himself getting lost in the gargantuan building that is UA, but you know it like the back of your hand. You always know that Katsuki takes the same route every day to keep his head on straight. You wait for him this morning, at the landing of the same staircase he uses to get to his class. As a familiar stomping reaches your ears, you don't find yourself getting nervous or pulling at your fingers. When Katsuki's gaze falls upon your own, he stops in his tracks. Your heart remains steadfast in its beat, never losing control. When he approaches you, expression guarded, you don't feel intimidated, and for the first time, you find that all the words you need spill from your lips. I went to visit my parents a few days ago. You begin, and even though you start feeling heart-sore, your heart still beats with courage, and your voice does not quiver. I cried like crazy, and I'm pretty sure I gained a couple pounds from how much food my aunt stuffed me with, even when I told her I wasn't hungry. You laughed airily for a moment, then let a beat of silence pass before beginning again. For a long time, I thought you were being pushy and annoying for trying so hard to get me to talk about stuff that made me feel all the feelings I was trying to avoid. And when we had our fight, I thought that I could make it up to you by giving you what you wanted, which I thought was an explanation. At some point, I figured out that all you wanted was to help me feel better. At the next breath you take, your voice begins to shake as you feel yourself finally undulating off the burden of keeping your feelings hidden away. And all this time, I've been so scared of telling you any of this, and so scared of loving you the way I know you deserve because you're well on your way to becoming a great pro hero. Just like my parents were. Their jobs killed them, and I'm so fucking scared that it might kill you too. Katsuki doesn't speak for a few moments, but he eventually lifts his hand to place it on top of your head. He pulls your face into his chest, and you readily wrap your arms around his torso.
Didn't anyone ever tell you that Ground Zero never fucking loses?
He questions you, and your laugh is filled with mirth, and you shake your head at the response. Katsuki's hand atop your head moves so that his arm is cradling your shoulders, the other arm moving to wrap around your waist.
I'm not going anywhere, dumbass. I'm always gonna be there for you.
You lift your head from Katsuki's chest and gaze fondly into his eyes. I'm nowhere near alright yet, so I'm gonna need you to hold my hand when I cry, okay? He nods, a smile pulling at his lips. Your eyes fall down to his smile, and you're filled with the urge to press your lips against his own, properly this time. No lies or secrets trying to hide in it.
Oi.
Your eyes drift back up to meet Katsuki's own at his call for your attention, and there's a familiar gentleness to them.
I love you, idiot. I always have.
Before you can respond, Katsuki slants his lips against your own. The kiss is soft and decadent and miles different than the one you'd first shared. There's a romance to it that is honeysuckle and sweet, and it leaves your cheeks torrid in the most gentle and agonizing way possible. You know that you've fallen in love with Katsuki as well, as gentle as the soft caress of his hand against the small of your back, and as gentle as the press of his lips intertwining with your own. When you finally pull away from each other, You shudder at the lingering sweetness of it. You stare fondly up at Katsuki, and he returns your gaze. I'm your girlfriend, so I need you to take care of me now, Katsu. Please, cherish me. Don't worry, he starts, and his expression is smug.
You can punch me in the dick if I don't.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Kachan?
Yeah, whatever, thanks. It means a lot.
See you soon.
You can punch me in the dick if I don't.
That's an ending line that we heard